Hello everyone, welcome to another video commentary of a Pug plus 20 Sanguine Depths. We'll be diving into each pull within the Prot Pally point of view. Let's get this started. The first pull involves 2 packs of ads. We have our Venthyr class activate the lantern while I pull, and I call for trees once the ads are gathered. If it's Sanguine weak, ensure that you kite the ads appropriately so you avoid healing them and keep them from leaving the lantern buff. I did spec into bubble for this run since I had to stay in relative position for big pulls such as this. It allowed me to take full advantage of the Venthyr Covenant buff. The next pull has the Mist Dancer pack with the Lone Brute. This sequence shouldn't be too hard since you have high stacks of the Venthyr buff. Treants should be up again by this pull, so don't be afraid to call it. After that pack is killed, we'll invis through the first room, so spawning Pride will be easy. Don't take this following pull lightly. I recommend you solo interrupt 1 gluttonous tick and have DPS and healers rotate kicks and CCs for the other 2. Don't be afraid to kite when needed. This pull could be tough as well, so I recommend calling for trees when it's up and kite after they're dead. Don't be afraid to use a defensive here too. I again solo interrupt 1 tick and have DPS rotate on the other. This pull also spawns Pride, so coordinate cooldowns appropriately. This boss could be approached a number of ways depending on the group's preference. Generally, I just tank the boss at his current position and have the DPS try to outrange the Severing Smash. I then soak my orb and let the remaining orbs be soaked on the healer's call. I also bop the healer or DPS if they don't have an immunity on the second charge. Using bop on the first charge is a waste since we have Pride and Lust running. Try to time your Word of Glory heals around the boss's Vicious Headbutt ability. If I'm below 50% HP and can't get a free Word of Glory cast, I use Ardent Defender to initiate its cheat death mechanic. You save so much time by pulling big after you kill the first boss. To make it easier on you as a Prot Paladin, I have everyone stay outside while you run in and pull the ads. Have the mage use Ring of Frost at the entrance of the room to apply additional CC. Rotate AoE interrupts and stuns accordingly. As a Prot Paladin, you have numerous ways to deal with the Sentinel's Slice ability. If you're Kyrian, you can use the Covenant Potion ability, and you can also use your 2 forms of bubble to remove the bleed. Let the healer know if you don't have these forms of mitigation, so they can pump heals into you during the bleed duration. Also remember to face the Sentinel away from the group. These next 2 pulls are relatively easy and contain the same mob type. I recommend solo kicking one of the oppressors and have the DPS and healer rotate on kicks for the other 2. Don't forget to use Blessing of Freedom on yourself to remove the Overseer's Dread Bindings ability. That way, you don't have to move to break them. The next pull involves you pulling a group of casters out of a room. Make sure you and your group stays out of line of sight when you pull them. I call for the Venthyr lantern to be open during this time because the Venthyr buff is generally refreshed after we kill the Pride spawn. Make sure to rotate AoE kicks and CCs here. After the pride spawn is killed, we will invis past the next overseer pack and the mini boss in the next room. Also note that opening the gate pulls the mobs behind it and breaks stealth, so wait till everybody catches up. Since we have pride and the Venthyr buff, we will be performing a double pull. Only call trees when the adds are gathered and let DPS reign. Don't forget to also rotate kicks on the Warden's Shackle ability and the Fury's Explosive Anger. I also like to perform a double pull for the next sequence. If you get the sentinel to spawn, pull it with the next closest group. If the patrol pack is far away, just let someone in your group know to CC the patrolling scribe with a non-combat CC if they get close. CCs like sheep, hex, distract, root, and blind can work. If you ever need to move these annoying scribes to group packs closer together, or to move them out of Sanguine, remember that they move when you get into their melee range as you slowly strafe or backpedal away. Once we reduced the pack to one add, I decided to chain pull into the patrolling scribe. If you can, try to make use of the Venthyr lantern here. It will be a little difficult due to the Vestige of Doubts to growing mistrust ability, but any amount of stacks will help you and your team. The following pack should be easier since we have a few stacks of the Venthyr Covenant buff. Just ensure that you rotate kicks appropriately. The reason why I pulled this pack to spawn Pride instead of the lone Vestige of Doubt earlier is because I don't like dealing with the Doubt's mistrust mechanic. It would add to the ground effects my group and I have to deal with. If you pulled these, make sure to kite appropriately and kill evenly. This boss dies pretty quickly with both Pride and Lust. Kill the ad, move away from ground effects, and you'll have a good time. After we kill the second boss, I also perform a double pull for the next sequence. RNG of course plays a role here depending if you get the sentinel or not. If it spawns, pull it with the scribe pack in the cage closest to the boss. If it doesn't spawn, I like to do a giga pull with another scribe pack. Efficiency is incredibly important for the giga pull. With the comp I have, the rotation I call for this pack involves Ring of Frost first, Vortex second to gather the adds better, Treants when they're pulled back, Bubble after the trees are dead, then Kite. This maximizes the adds staying in one spot so you take full advantage of flame patches, earthquakes, wild spirits, and other AoE DPS abilities before having to kite. Your next pull is obviously different if the sentinel did spawn for you. If you had a sentinel in the previous pull, pull the next scribe with Ghoul's pack alone or with the patrol. If you have the sentinel spawn here, like I did, I usually pull it with the upcoming patrol. The following sequence just involves the Warden group. The pull is pretty easy, but don't forget to rotate kicks. If you didn't have a sentinel spawn by this point, pull the next closest pack after this. You'll still be okay on percent. The next two pulls are also easy. Again, rotate your interrupts and prepare for the Pride spawn before the boss. This boss can be made easier for your healer if you rotate immunities here. Since we had two paladins, a mage, and a rogue, we were able to breeze through the boss's Rite of Supremacy ability. If you don't have this many immunities, save your group by soaking 1 to 2 orbs for phases where no immunity or personal defensives can be used. As for the Iron Spikes casts, you can use Ardent Defender, Guardian of the Ancient Kings, the Bloodscale Trinket, Kyrian Potion if you're Kyrian, and a regular health pot to mitigate the damage. Try to rotate some of these during the boss fight to help your healer out. If you don't have a rogue in your group, refrain from using damage pots so that you can use invis pots shortly after you kill this boss. After the third boss, you'll pull 1 pack of ads before using an invis potion. Ensure your healer, if not a holy pally, has plenty of mana before starting the gauntlet. At the start of the gauntlet, I like to do a double pull. Call for treants when they're gathered, and don't be afraid to use a defensive cooldown. The cadets hurt a lot, so call for Vortex and Kite when needed. Only do this pull if you have a defensive cooldown to spare. For the next pull, you can immediately use the Venthyr Lantern to speed up this phase. The lantern should still be on long enough to refresh the buff with the next caster pack. The next pull should be easier on you and the healer with high stacks of the Venthyr Covenant buff. Pay attention to mechanics and proceed to the next pack. Coming out of the gauntlet makes this pull tough since both you and your healer generally have exhausted your cooldowns. Don't be afraid to use one here if you have one up, and don't forget to use the shield on your back for extra mitigation. The next sequence can be skipped depending on how much you are pressed for time. Your invis pots should be back up, so skipping this should be no problem. The group and I, however, agreed to spawn Pride since we still had plenty of time. The last boss should be easier to manage if you have both Pride and Lust. Also remember you bring utility as a prod paladin for this fight. Bot party members who have the bleed debuff, place Blessing of Sacrifice for those who are taking significant damage, and use Lay on Hands as the clutch heal for those about to die. As always, thank you guys for watching. Comment to let me know what you think, and like and subscribe to show support. I'm always willing to answer any questions you may have, so ask away in the comments or reach me live on my Twitch channel. Good luck on your keys, and until next time, peace.